Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer for RealTime Fantasy Sports. Welcome to another edition of the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. On today's show, I'm joined by contributing writer for RealTime Fantasy Sports, Logan Glaser, once again to help me preview a new position. This time we're going to tackle the tight end position. Logan, thanks so much for joining me once again.
Jeff, thanks for having me on.
So before we get into that tight end preview, let's talk a little bit about our commissioner product. I feel like it's the best out there. We have all sorts of different things you can do. And if you're new to the site, or you just play in money leagues and you don't have your home leagues on our commissioner product, give us a shot. Totally free the first year. Just use the promo code RTFSNews. That's also our Twitter handle if you want to follow us on Twitter. But that's the promo code for any new users of our commissioner product, so you can sign up. Totally free to do that for the first year. We can help walk you through setting up your league as well. Logan, our commissioner product, I feel like it's the best out there. A lot of different stuff you can do for sure.
There's so many different options. You can change the scoring, get tons of different free agent settings, schedule options. There's so many different options that you can choose from.
And if you want to get into something besides our commissioner product, we have great money leagues as well. We have our great TFC, the Fantasy Championship, $500,000 for the prize this year. And we have a promo going on with that right now, right,
We sure do. Yeah, promo starting tomorrow, June 25th through June 30th. If you enter a live TFC draft, you will be awarded a free best ball entry as well. So you'll get a free a TFC draft and a free best ball with that.
Great. And I think those best ball leagues, especially if you can get in them, are a great practice draft if you want to put a little money into it and see where people are going. But I think it's a great tool to use. I've been doing them every week with the Colton and the Wolfman show, and I think it just gives you a great feel for the land on how drafts are going this year.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about this tight end position now, Logan. First of all, let's go into how we attack it. How are we drafting a tight end? Tell me your strategy.
Yeah, I think it depends what type of league I'm in. So if I'm in a tournament league, I'm going to be looking at getting a top tight end. If I'm just in a head-to-head league, then I'm going to kind of wait on that. So with the tournament league, I'm kind of going, you got to have the top players in these tournaments. If you want to win the big money, you got to have the best at every position. And I think with the tight end position, there's a ceiling with only about 5 or 6 tight ends that can really reach that number one tight end spot.
I'm a little indifferent. I've talked about how I've done a lot of drafts already, and my draft construction. I'm not huge on going tight end early with the way my team's turned out. If I'm going to go early, there's one guy I really like. I'm going to talk about him. But for the most part, I'm going to wait in most drafts, go 8 or 9, rounds 8 or 9, and maybe take back-to-back tight ends. There's a lot of guys in that range, and maybe platoon them there. There's a couple guys I'm targeting that you're going to hear about in a couple minutes here as well. So I think I'm going to wait on it for the most part. There's maybe one guy I might go early on, but for the most part, I'm going to wait till the middle rounds and maybe go back-to-back, get 2 guys I can platoon. All right, you want to talk about a draft too?
Yeah, let's go ahead and pull up a recent best ball draft that just took place on RT Sports for a $20 entry to win $25,000. So the team I want to highlight in this draft is team number 2. They took Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts back-to-back in rounds 3 and 4. It was just kind of interesting because you rarely see tight ends going back-to-back so early in these drafts. So what the strategy that this user did was he ended up getting 2 top tight ends. He also got 2 top running backs in the first 2 rounds. And then what he took was 12 wide receivers later on. And I think that's a great strategy to have for these best ball leagues. All you need is a couple players to hit big each week, and I love the strategy that he took.
Yeah, definitely interesting, different ways to attack it, and that's, again, like I said, it's a good strategy to get in some of these best ball leagues and play around with draft construction, see how it plays out. Definitely an interesting draft strategy, too. Maybe playing a little defense there as well.
Yeah.
If you get 2 top tight ends, you're keeping one of them off another roster.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about our targets now, Logan. Guys that we like this year. So give me a couple targets that you're looking to draft on your teams this year.
Yeah, the first one I'm going to be looking to draft is George Kittle. He finished last year 4th overall in tight end scoring in 2021 while missing 3 games. His current ADP is 47, which is actually lower than it was last year. And and it is dropping, so his ADP is going down, so you can get him at an even better price than probably 47 right now. Last year he was more of a boom bust player. So again, this is for a best ball. He's great for best ball because he had games of 181 yards last year, 151 yards, a couple other games over 100 yards, but then he also had a couple of bust games where he only finished with 10 yards, 13, and 17. But I still really like him in rounds 4 or 5 in drafts this year.
Anybody else you're targeting?
Yeah, another player I'm going to be targeting is Dalton Schultz for the Cowboys. With Amari Cooper being gone, this just opens up even more opportunities for Schultz this year. He finished third in tight end scoring last year. His ADP is currently 63. He's going in round 6 and 7. And I absolutely love him because he's going to be even relied on more than he was last year, and he got tons of targets last year.
Another note, too, Michael Gallup recovering from a torn
Exactly,
ACL might
yes.
not be ready for the start of the year, so that's even more targets for him. Couple guys I like. Okay, I teased it a little bit earlier about if I'm going early, but here's a guy I want if I'm going early, Kyle Pitts. Tough for rookie tight ends to play at a high level their rookie season. Pitts did it. He was 6th in tight end fantasy scoring last year, and he scored just a touchdown. I think that was a fluke. I don't think it's going to be indicative of his career. I think he's going to be a good red zone target. He's going to dominate targets in that offense as well. He had 110 last season. Calvin Ridley's not going to be there all year. They have a terrible receiver room for the most part. I think Pitts is going to rack up the targets. Not really worried about the quarterback play. I know some people are worried about Mariota and maybe what he can do this year, but Pitts is going to get a ton of work. Remember, Delaney Walker was a big-time option when Mariota was quarterback as well. So I love Pitts this year. If I'm going early on tight end, it's going to be him because he goes a little later than Kelce and Andrews. Maybe sometimes you can get him in round 4, even early round 5. If I can do that, I'm going to get Pitts. I think he's going to have a monster year. Another one of my targets, this is if I'm waiting a little bit, and it's Cole Kmet. He's another guy. Didn't score many touchdowns last year. He actually failed to score a touchdown last year, which held down his fantasy numbers. He still had 60 catches for 612 yards. I don't like that receiver room. He was good down the stretch last season, had at least 3 receptions, 7 straight games to end his year. He even had 2 games with 6 or more catches. He's going to get a lot of targets because the Bears just don't have great options at receiver outside of Darnell Mooney. I think Justin Fields takes a step forward this year, and you can get Cole Kmet a lot later in drafts. So this is a guy I'm looking at getting in rounds 8, 9, even 10, and I think he's going to be a good fantasy player. All right, Logan, on the flip side, let's talk about guys maybe we don't want on our roster. We're going to let somebody else take. Who are 2 guys that you are avoiding this year?
Yeah, the number 1 tight end I'm going to avoid this year is Darren Waller. So he finished 17th in tight end scoring last year. He was probably the most disappointing tight end pick. He missed several games, but even games that he played in, he didn't do that good. He's currently being drafted in the 5th round overall. You got Hunter Renfro kind of emerge in the wide receiver core area last year, and then you also have the addition of Devontae Adams coming through to the Raiders. So the targets are going to be more scarce this year for Waller. He had a great year 2 years ago. He suffered last year, and I expect him to suffer again this year. And then another tight end I'm going to avoid is TJ Hockenson. And it's kind of the same reason as Waller. There's just going to be so many more targets or so many more options on that offense, and they're not going to be able to get him the ball as much as he's used to. So you got Detroit, who added in Jamison Williams, DJ Chark, and then you also got the emergence of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then you also have DeAndre Swift, who's going to get his targets as well. So Hockenson had a great year 2 years ago. Last year was a little iffy year. He was kind of in the middle there, but he's just being drafted way too high for me to take him. Last year he had no games over 100 yards, and I think his ceiling's kind of capped this year.
All right, Logan, a couple guys I'm avoiding. My first one might be a little controversial. I still have him as my number 1 tight end, but I'm avoiding Travis Kelce. I still think he's going to have a good year, but he had his worst numbers in a few seasons last season, a little more erratic last year, fewer than double-digit fantasy points, 4 games. He's 32 years old. I think he could be starting to slow down a little bit. His ADP is 15.33 right now. Too rich for my blood, in my opinion. I'm not going to use a late first round, early second round pick to get Travis Kelce. I'm just not sure it's worth it. I don't like how the rest of my draft stacks out. I'm worried about him slowing down a little bit this year. Again, it's the ADP is why I'm avoiding him this year. I'm going to let somebody else take him. I still think he'll have a decent season, but I'm not sure he's going to live up to his past numbers in fantasy land. Another one of players I'm going to avoid this year, Robert Tonyan. He topped 40 receptions just once in his entire career. A lot of people are kind of high on him because the receiver room's not very good in Green Bay. I just think he's a touchdown-dependent player. I'm not sure the weak receiver room is going to lead to more targets for him. It hasn't in the past. They haven't exactly had a great receiver room outside of Devontae Adams' past years as well. He hasn't exactly shown and blown up for fantasy teams despite a lack of talent in the receiver room in Green Bay. So I think it's going to be more of the same this year. Boomer bust dependent, touchdown dependent fantasy player. I just don't trust Robert Tonyan, and I'm going to let somebody else take him. All right, Logan, let's move on a little bit and talk about, tight end number 2s that we might take a chance on that we think could emerge this year, maybe surprise a little bit. Who's a tight end number 2 you're going to take a chance on?
Yeah, I'm going to take a chance on Irv Smith Jr. Last year, I had him circled basically in every single draft, and we all know how that turned out. He had a knee injury during preseason and missed the entire year. So in 2020, he split with Kyle Rudolph, and he did pretty well with splitting with Kyle Rudolph. And then Kyle Rudolph moved on, and 2021 was supposed to be a year for Irv Smith Jr. Didn't play at all, but now he has his opportunity in 2022. He's currently being drafted at 140. The tight end room is all his in Minnesota, and I expect him to get lots of targets. And I'm going to be trying to roster him as my tight end 2 in almost every single league.
I like that, Logan. I like Irv Smith a lot this year, too. I think he could emerge, just has to stay on the field. A guy I'm going to take a chance on is my number 2 tight end, Hayden Hurst. He gets a chance to be the starter once again, serving as the number 1 tight end for the Bengals in an offense that's very, very good. Last year, C.J. Uzomah was 19th in tight end scoring as the starter for Cincinnati. I think Hurst is a lot more talented than Uzomah, in my opinion. I think he could exceed Uzomah's number, be a top 15 tight end, in my opinion. Remember, he had 56 receptions just 2 seasons ago. I like his potential for some big games in this offense, especially in best ball leagues. I think Hurst is a good target late in drafts. All right, let's go even deeper now, Logan. Let's talk about a deep sleeper, maybe for leagues that are really deep or, best ball leagues where you're going to take 3 tight ends. Give me a deep, deep sleeper that you're looking to add late in drafts.
Yeah, my deep sleeper this year is Alberto Gonzalez. He is, what I love about him is his opportunity that he has in Denver. He's young, Noah Fant's gone, he's going near the end of drafts. You got a better QB coming in with Russell Wilson compared to Teddy Bridgewater. And what we can't stress enough about for tight ends is the opportunity that he's going to have. He's going to get several targets per game, and then he's also going to be able to find the end zone and get a couple end zone targets.
Just call him Alberto. That's right.
Yes, that's what we need to do.
I can't even pronounce his name either. That's a tough one. He's even a Mizzou guy, so we're familiar with him being from St. Louis. Still can't pronounce it. But I like that call, though. Alberto's definitely got some potential. So a deep sleeper for me is Taysom Hill. Why not, in my opinion? We moved him to tight end this year on the site. Been a little debate, but he is supposed to play tight end full-time now. I don't trust Adam Troutman. I'm not sold on him. He started much of the year last year for New Orleans, had just 27 receptions. I think the Saints are going to find ways to get Hill the ball. He's moving to tight end full-time this year. Maybe he'll throw some passes as well, get some rushes out of the backfield, maybe get some work around the goal line. He can do a lot of things. I think he'll get touches in a variety of ways. He's tight end eligible, like I said. So why not take a chance on him as number 3 tight end? I think he's worth the risk and definitely has some potential for the big game. All right, Logan, that's our tight end preview for 2022. Really interesting position. I think it's a little deeper than past years, and I'm excited about drafting it this year.
Yeah, it's definitely deeper than usual. This year we got probably about 15 to 20 tight ends that can make some noise this year.
Yeah, definitely. Usually it's a position that's hard to draft because it's so top heavy, but I think there's a lot of options you can get in middle rounds like we talked about.
Absolutely.
All right, Logan, thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff.
This has been Jeff Paur for RealTime Fantasy Sports.
And this has been Logan Glaser from RealTime Fantasy Sports.
Have a great day, everyone.